Hello, Melody. Thank you so much for your time. It's been I've been following your work. I read your book, your newest book, which I would love to actually talk about because it's rare to see unbiased books coming out, basically on science, but not being because I like this or I'm a guru now, so whatever I say, it's true. You just went through everything so detailed, and actually, it's like if I remember correctly, 300 pages, and it's so dense with so much information, and you cut out all the crap, and you gave actual material that people can use.
Yeah, that was the idea.
Oh yeah. How are you so strong?
Genetics? I don't know. I figure I'm really close to the ground, so the weight doesn't have very far to go,
Oh, come on. Like, I've seen the things you do. I've seen your training regime. I've seen what actually you've been doing it for more than 25 years, training people. And what's the method? What's how you train people? What's your whole mentality around that?
Well, I don't have like one method. What I try to do is meet people where they're at. And so, I mean, if somebody wants to train like me, great, but people don't need to train like me. And I have clients who are like 12 and I have clients who are 75, and they're not all going to train like me. So what I try to do is meet people where they're at and understand that people's goals may be here. Like a lot of time, most of the time when people come and see me, it's just, I want to get healthy. I want to lose weight. I want to gain weight, whatever. One of those things. It's like just really nebulous kind of, a gym is where I should be because I want to get healthier. And then what they find is as they go through, all of a sudden they get little ideas. They're like, you know what, I'd really like to be able to do a pull-up, or, I'd like to lift twice my body weight, or whatever it is. So all of these new goals tend to stem just from starting. But I always meet people where they're at and what they're able to do. And I've taken people from not being able to squat unassisted to like deadlifting and squatting and doing a lot of powerlifting stuff and getting in entirely new mentality. So it's pretty cool. Mm-hmm.
That's the most important because what it all starts is with not being biased, but also trying. There are many tools out there. They all work, but they don't work for the individual. Right. What's your opinion about strength training? How do you think we can efficiently, what worked for you to get so strong? I know you said about genes, which yes, it plays a massive role. Yes, you might, I know you make fun of your height and stuff, but there are other people at that height and they cannot actually do what you do.
Well, you can get strong doing anything. And strength is a very relative term. Like, what do you want to get strong at? Like, do you want to get strong as a powerlifter? Do you want to get strong as a strongman athlete? Do you want to get strong, I train for a lot of different things, which I think is a thing and a bad thing. It's to my detriment in some ways because I'm never going to specialize in anything, which probably means that I'm never going to be as strong as I could be in any one lift. But I'm okay with that. I don't need to be as strong as I can be in any one lift. I want to get kind of pretty damn strong in a lot of things. I have the attention span of a cornflake, so I have all these that's shiny. I want to do that. So that's really kind of, I just train for a lot of things. So right now, fortunately, most of the things that I train for are kind of interrelated. So I do strongman competitively, and I am not a good competitor because strongman is not designed for 105-pound women who are 5 feet tall. But there are plenty of people my size who are a lot stronger than me at it. but what I like about strongman is that between any two competitions, the events are never the same. And
Yeah.
so I'm always kind of training for something new, which is really cool. When I train myself, my core lifts are always the same. They're the basic power lifts plus an overhead. And those are always the same because I feel like those are a really good base of general strength. And they generally find themselves in one of my sports or another to some degree. And then, with the strongman, I also do arm lifting. Arm lifting is a grip sport. And if you don't have strong grip, you're not going to be good at any kind of lifting. So I feel like that is kind of related in that sense. And a lot of the arm lifting stuff is a deadlift of some kind. It's just a deadlift with something that is not designed to be picked up, right? So like some kind of giant rotating handle or something like that. And then I also do old time strongman feats of strength. So I rip stuff up and bend steel and do kind of weird stuff like that. That's an entire body tension at weird angles kind of thing, which is what strongman is. So I feel like everything I do kind of builds on each other. So that's probably part of why I am as strong as I am in the things that I do, is because they're all kind of help each other.
Yeah,
Does that
being
make sense?
versatile and actually training in so many different, let's say, regimes, I think actually helps with overall strength and being a more complete, let's say, athlete or on whatever you want to do. Because strength is always money in the bank.
Yeah, it's just fun. I think it's fun, and it's fun to pick stuff up that can't be picked up.
Oh, 100%. I follow
but
one of your videos with you were hanging like from like monkey bars with specific grips. They were ball.
oh yeah, I'll show you. It's the Rolling Thunder. The Rolling
Oh
Thunder is
God.
it's an iron mine tool, and it's a more than 2 inches around, and it rolls.
Uh,
Yeah.
you know
So it's
what?
really, especially if you have little tiny hands like me, it's really hard to hold on to because my hands don't go all the way around there. And so when you're holding on to it, the tendency is it wants to slide out of your hands. So yeah,
I
it's fun.
tried it in the morning, and there was no way I can hold myself on that. I don't know how you do that. And it goes back to, as you said, grip strength, but also being strong.
And a lot of, I mean, I didn't start strong. I was the last kid. I don't know how it works in Europe, but in the US, when I was growing up, you had to be, like when they did physical education, there were teams for the sports, and then the kids would pick their teams. I was never the first. I was always the last one picked. Nobody wanted me on their team. I did not grow up in an athletic family. I did not grow up in a family that valued athleticism. My family valued reading and intellectualism, not like sports were like, why would you do that? And the only reason that you do that is to get a certain, body fat, but you don't do it for, athletic prowess or anything like that. So the fact that I'm here coming from there is kind of shocking, honestly. And it's funny, the kids I grew up with are kind of like, is that same chick from middle school or whatever? So it's pretty funny.
Because that was going to be my next question. Because both you and Brad are into sports, into the science of sport and exercise and physiology, and you're both, really like leading experts. If I can use the term. And I always wanted to ask, how did that come forward with, what was the inspiration? What made you get into that field?
Well, with Brad, it was a completely different thing because Brad got into weightlifting. He was a scrawny little kid who ate everything in sight. And then my other brother, Glenn, actually just brought him to the gym one day and he got really into it, clearly. And Brad's focus is quite different from mine. Brad's focus is mainly physique. He is a hypertrophy specialist. He wants to get as big as you can without taking drugs to do it. I don't care as much about that. I want to lift all the things. So that's the main difference. But here's the reason why I got into this. When I got out of college, I was in advertising. I went into advertising, and I was making $20,000 a year in New York City, which will buy you a sandwich maybe. And I needed extra money, and he had a gym, a personal training center for women that he had opened up, and so he let me work there on the weekends to make some extra money. So I could maybe get a second sandwich. So basically, I didn't know anything about any of this stuff, and he would write the programs, and then give them to me and show me how to do all the movements. And then I would just parrot everything he said and teach. And I don't like talking the talk without walking the walk. I don't like teaching without practicing, you know? And so I started following him around at the gym and being really annoying and seeing what he was doing and following him. Or else I would take the programs and take them to the gym and do them myself. And so that's how I got into it. And I discovered I really enjoyed it. And so then I became a computer consultant after a while, which is the most sedentary job I've ever had. And there's a lot of obesity. And my coworkers started seeing that I was doing all the stuff at the gym, and they would ask me to train them. So I was basically training people for free just because I was going to the gym, and they would come to the gym with me, and I would teach them what to do. And then September 11th happened, and you know, I had this very very come to Jesus type moment where I was like, what do I want to do with my life, and where do I want to be doing it? At the time, I had been living in Chicago, and at the time, I had a boyfriend who lived in Los Angeles. So I was like, all right, let me go to Los Angeles and try this personal training thing full time, because this seems to be the thing I always go back to. That was the only thing I've ever done that I felt like I was making a difference. I wanted to be a musician. That's the other thing I felt like I was making a difference, but that's, you know, clearly you don't just go out and be a musician. It doesn't really work that well. So this was the thing I was doing well. And it allowed me to do music on the side, which was cool. And so I started working at a big box gym in Los Angeles, and it all just kind of spiraled from there. So it was cool.
Wow. No, it's really interesting because, you know, being mindful of what you're doing and, you know, taking the choices you want makes actually people that might be thinking about it can say, oh, you know what, that's what I like, that's what I need to do, because being in an office doing like this isn't actually, you know, helping me at any point. And look how you transfer from one job to another, and you're actually making a massive difference to yourself, but also to other people's lives, as you said.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really cool just being able to do your passion, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So,
And it can be something we love, but also it's a painful journey, as I say, because that's what actually passion means, and we enjoy it, which is really
absolutely.
important. 105 pounds, 5'2", and
5 feet. But thank you for the extra 2 inches. Appreciate it.
And vegan.
And vegan.
Tell me about that. How did it start? The differences you saw, because then I want to talk about your book, because it's seriously, it's an amazing book. And the only thing I always said was, athletes I had in the past that were vegan, we can see that they felt a bit, they needed supplement specific micronutrients, minerals. They had a lack of energy and all that. I don't know how you dealt with that, or what's the science, what actually means being vegan.
Well, you know, I've always kind of been on this trajectory ever since I was a little kid. I remember being, the first I grew up in had a bird bath, and I used to sit at the bird bath and see bugs drowning in there, and I would take them out and save them. I've just always kind of been on that trajectory. And then, you know, I really liked lobster as a child because I was an expensive kid. And so, but it never, like, I never made the connection between the lobsters in the tank and the lobsters on the plate. And I used to like to watch the lobsters in the tank, and it never occurred to me they've got rubber bands around their claws, and none of this stuff ever occurred to me. And so I would just watch them, and I would eat this thing on the plate, and I wouldn't make the connection. And then one day they brought out the live lobster, and I was like, wait a minute. And I made the connection, and I stopped eating, probably to my parents' relief. I stopped eating that stuff as a small child. And then it was like, you know, it took a while, but then I went to, we had like a trip in grade school. We went to like one of these 18th century villages. I don't know if they do this kind of thing where they kind of cosplay how they were in the 18th century, and they have somebody like, you know what I'm talking about? So they had an 18th century butcher with a cow hanging out to drip dry, and I stopped eating beef. Like, I was like, oh, nope, that's it. And so it's always kind of been like that. When I was in college, I wasn't even really trying. I realized I hadn't eaten chicken in 2 months, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I can do that. And I didn't really understand the vegan thing at all. It didn't make sense. And I really liked seafood. Like I really like dim sum, like a lot.
Hmm.
And so that was like kind of the thing. I would eat it and then I would feel like an asshole. But then I wouldn't stop me. So I couldn't do it. But then I also didn't understand the milk and the eggs thing. Like you don't kill the cow to get the milk, and you don't kill a chicken to get the eggs. What's the big deal? And the other part of that was every vegan I met made me not want to go vegan. Like they were all really
Thank
like
you.
militant and if you don't eat like us, you're a bad person and all this stuff. And
Oh,
I don't need some making me feel bad for how I eat. This is a choice I made. That's a choice you made. Leave me alone. It's kind of like having like a religious person come to your door and try to shove, a religious book in your face. Like I don't need like if I want to believe what you believe, I will come to that on my own, but I don't need you to,
yeah.
um, so I really I didn't want to be any part of it, and it actually made me more determined to not be vegan. I was like, screw you guys, not doing it. I don't want to be like you. Um, but I happened to meet some vegan people who were pretty nice one time, and I said, I might regret this, but what's the deal with the milk and the eggs? I don't get it. And they said to me the best thing that anybody could have said to me. They said, why don't you go and do some research and tell us what you find out? Well, I know how to research stuff. I'm good with that. And I know what sources I trust. I know what sources I don't feel are biased. So I went
Of
and I
course.
did my research. And it was, it's all tied into the meat industry, and I just couldn't do it anymore. Like I could not live with my morality and continue to eat those things. So I stopped on the dot. It's really easy to quit doing something when you believe in it very strongly. If I were just doing it for health reasons or something like that, I don't think I could have done it. Especially when I went vegan, there were really crappy vegan foods. Like the like vegan cheese was like erasers. It was so bad. But yeah, it was so bad. But now, like if I had done it now, I could have done it easily because there's so many options. But back
Oh,
then,
yeah.
no. Yeah. But yeah, it's a moral thing for me, 100%. And if I didn't believe in it so strongly, I don't know that I could have done it.
Recommendations. Well, what you said was really important because it's the same thing. I tried everything, every diet, just so I can talk to my clients and say how they're going to feel, but also, as an experiment for me. And remember 10 years ago, as you said, the products, especially when I was in Greece or then when I got here, it was in London, it was horrible. Now, the past 5, 6 years, 4 years, everything's much better.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, yeah. Now there's like so many options, products, and things that I think taste better than the real thing in a lot of cases. So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
what do people like? Let's say someone, because I've got a lot of people that asked me that when I said we're gonna have this interview, and they said, what do people need to be careful of when they start a vegan diet?
Well, the biggest thing, and you said you had that client who their energy was really low. The biggest thing that people do is they don't eat enough. They don't eat enough calories to sustain what they're doing. And that's a really big problem. Obviously, you need to be able to eat enough. So it's really common to find anorexia amongst vegans, particularly in athletics. A
Yeah.
lot of people use veganism as an excuse to not eat certain things. Um, when you are anorexic or you have an eating disorder, a lot of the time you're kind of ashamed of what you're doing, and so you come up with these rational reasons why you can't possibly eat those things, and one of them is veganism. Well, I can't eat those things, I'm vegan, and it just makes it easier. People don't ask too many questions, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it makes life much easier. So the issue is really with that is calories. You're not probably getting enough calories in. It's probably not that you're not getting enough carbs, right? Because most vegan protein sources are carbohydrate sources, and most vegan foods are carbohydrate sources, and fat sources.
Would it play
Um,
anything with low iron, especially in women that we know that it's more, you know, uh, happens more often? And do you think that would be a
yeah,
problem?
I mean, it's never been a problem for me, and it's not necessarily a problem for people who go vegan. The main issue is that the vegan form of iron is not as well absorbed.
Hmm.
That's easily kind of remedied when you eat enough vitamin C. Vitamin C helps iron absorb into your body. Also, using things like cast iron pots can help. Of course, depends on the age of the pot and that kind of thing as well, but they can help. If you feel like you're low on iron, if you're a runner, you're going to lose some blood through your hitting the floor with your feet, right?
Yeah.
And also through the menstrual cycle. If your weight's not too low and you haven't gone into amenorrhea, your menstrual cycle can cause anemia as well. And so the main thing is if you're not eating enough iron containing foods. And in the vegan diet, the iron containing foods are mostly the leafy greens are real good sources of iron, and certain beans and legumes are good sources of iron as well. It's not that hard to get. It's just that it's not the best absorbed variety. So you have to eat a fair amount of those things. You generally have to eat, I believe, 1.5 to 2 times as much as the recommended daily allowance.
Did it have any effect on your training as you started actually getting into fully vegan? Have you ever? No.
Mm-mm. I never noticed any difference. I like to eat, so I'm certainly not deficient in calories. The main thing is I had to really kind of make sure I was getting enough protein. You can easily get enough protein in the vegan diet, but it's just easier to do it if you're supplementing. you
Yeah.
know, and so I started doing protein shakes, which I had never done before, because I ate a lot of eggs before. And so the protein shakes was new to me, but that's kind of been my staple. And honestly, I have to be out the door by 5 in the morning every day, and so a protein shake is the fastest thing I can eat. So
Yeah.
that works out pretty well. Hmm.
100%.
Hmm.
Um, diet lies and weight loss truths. How did that come about? What was it?
Mostly because I kept seeing so much bullshit in the nutrition world. Like there's so the internet is a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing in that it brings together people who may never have been like you and me. I might never have met you if it weren't for the internet. But also, it's a great source of information. We can get some of the best information from the best minds in the whole world.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we also get a lot of information from people who have no business putting information out. And so there's so much, and then just the fact that the world of nutrition, things change. We always get new information. It's not set in stone. We find out new things, and then the rules change. So all of this put together leads for a very confusing blueprint of how to eat properly. And so most of my clients are weight loss clients, and they come to me with all kinds of questions and confusion because they hear all the things and they've tried all the things. They've done the keto and they've done the intermittent fasting and they've done this and they've taken the pills and they've done this, and why aren't I seeing success? And so what I wanted to do was create something that made the science easy to understand,
Hmm.
um, and provide a path forward that isn't so just headache inducing.
What were the lies you heard, and what are the lies that still make you, let's say, angry? Because for me,
And
because people fail uh, because of those lies. It's not like the lies fail them. I know that
right.
people shouldn't be scientists, but they need a bit of common sense. But people will try anything, and I always say it's consistency. It's a thing that you can actually do. But what are the lies you've been told, and what are the lies that makes you angry?
I mean, there's so many, so many. There are a lot of lies on the vegan side where people are basically saying, "Oh, you don't have to take supplements," because they want you to believe that it's easy to be vegan, which it is pretty easy to be vegan, but it does take a little more work. But they want you to believe that it's the best diet out there and that anything that isn't vegan is going to cause cancer. That is also not true.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and all this stuff. And so there's a lot of lies on the vegan side. That's how all these stupid documentaries came out where they're just trying to push their dogma down your throat. And it's part of the reason why
Amongst
I
other
believe this
things,
kind
yeah.
of, yeah, exactly. Um, but then there's also the other side of this coin where there are these new and maybe not so new diets where it's almost as if they're trying to be the opposite of vegan and just like specifically to be like, this is the only way that you can be a man And
Yeah.
if and there's literally a word called soy boy. Like they're literally saying if you eat soy, you are not a man, which is stupid. I mean, if you know anything about science, it's a stupid statement to make. But then, it's this womanizing of a plant-based diet. It's the feminizing, and as if being a woman is a bad thing anyways. I guess if you're a man, being a woman is maybe not a great thing, but but making it, but making it like you don't want to be like a woman. um, but yeah, no, it's this almost bullying of the of
It
the
is.
of
It
a
is. Yeah.
plant-based diet. It's
By
it's a
far.
very, very aggressive, um, and I think nasty way to be. But the carnivore diet is probably the biggest one that, first of all, there's no science about the carnivore diet that I know of. But look, if you feel better when you eat like that, more power to you. Go for it. But the fact that they jump into this dogma and use it to demonize anyone who doesn't eat like them, anyone who eats, plants or tofu or anything like that is demonized. But this has been going on for a long time. This isn't just this. This is like people jump onto these diet bandwagons or exercise bandwagons, and
Oh yeah.
anything that isn't that thing is bad. Don't do it. So,
Because it becomes a
it's not
cult.
just
If there's no underlying understanding of all the mechanisms, I would
yes,
say, and that's what was like. I remember I think it was either 14th chapter that you said, what's the best diet? And it's
right,
like 15, 20 pages, which actually is everything's there. Because we need
yeah,
to put the habitual part as well in there. You might
right,
want to do that, but are you able to actually do it? Like you might want to be vegan, but can you actually do it? Because
right.
we need to understand also that we're social human beings, and at some point we're going to go out. We're going to date. We're going to be with family, with members, with whatever, partying, and you don't
Mhm.
want to feel, that something is wrong with you because you're on a diet.
Right,
And
right,
diet means
exactly,
lifestyle.
right. Exactly. And so I mean, you have to be upfront about people if this is the thing that you're going to do. And you have to tell them this is what you're doing, and hopefully they're supportive of what you're doing. And if they're not supportive of what you're doing, these are probably not people you can eat with, unfortunately,
Yeah,
because
so true.
they're gonna make you feel bad for what you're doing.
What's the best diet?
The best diet is the one you can stick to long term. That's it. If you are healthy, if it is getting you towards your goals, and you feel like it's pretty sustainable for you, that's best diet right there.
Best diet.
Mm-hmm.
Where would you put exercise? Because I love the way you write, and
Well, thank
how you actually talk. Like I don't want to like people. You guys need to get the book. But I love the way you actually segue to actually how people need to find why they're picking this diet and how they need to actually feel that it's not um, making them stressed, but it's actually enjoying the journey. Um,
right.
what's the percentage that you would put on diet and what on exercise? Because that's every time people ask, like, oh, if I run like 45 minutes on the treadmill, can I eat a donut?
Well, you need to be in a caloric deficit, no matter what. So if you are exercising enough to put you in a caloric deficit compared to what you're eating, then you lose weight. But it really comes down to the calories. So it doesn't matter to me how much you're exercising. If your calories are more than that, then you won't lose weight. So you basically have to adjust your calories based on your exercise.
And I know we talked about individualization before, but there's a massive wave now with, oh, high intensity training is the best. It's the gift of God, whatever. What's your opinion? I know you would say, depending on the person, 100%, but let's say healthy individual, what would you be the way to go, and which, let's say, tools would you use?
I would I mean, see, this is a hard question because it depends on their goals. If your goals are, for instance, to get a really, really good bench press, then maybe high intensity training is not going to get you there,
Yeah.
right? If your goal is to just burn a whole lot of calories in one session, then high intensity training might be a really good way to do that. The benefit of high intensity training is that it cuts down on the amount of time you really have to spend exercising. So, if you're like me and you have the attention span of a gnat, you're not going to spend 45 minutes on a bike because it will drive you crazy. So high intensity training might be the way to go, right? When I do cardio, literally, it's like 3 minutes on the bike, and then I go and jump rope for like 100 jumps, and then I go swing a kettlebell, and then I go like do some battle ropes, and like I can't do one thing for 45 minutes unless it's hiking. That's it. So
No,
yeah.
it's so important to say because I know you do a lot of workshops and seminars, and you actually when we're chatting about stuff that we're going to be actually doing in the future, it's how you actually combine all those tools to the future trainers or the actual coaches out there. What do you think would be a really good toolbox for someone to own?
Wait, I'm not understanding your question. A toolbox for someone to own for what?
Like you need a lot of people, they did like a weekend on CrossFit, and then CrossFit is a holy grail. Other people do kettlebells. Oh, kettlebells are, the holy grail. I always say, depending on what you do, every tool has its place.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah, and as far as I'm concerned, these things are simply tools. And any tool can be useful. If you want to build a house and all you have is a hammer, you're going to build a really crappy house.
oh yeah,
Right? But if you have like all the tools in the world, you might not need a bandsaw right now, right? But later on, you might find a use for one. So I'm good with having all kinds of tools. I don't value any one over any other thing unless that is the thing that you want to get stronger at. So for me, there are certain things in my workouts that I cannot be without because those are things I need to get stronger at. I need to have barbells, I need to have stones, and I need to have implements of grip training. Those are no-brainers for me. For most people who simply want to get all over strong, you can have nothing but a dumbbell if you want, and still, or not even necessarily all over strong, but all over kind of fit, you know. Um, because strong is kind of, well, these words strong and fit, they're so general,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
and they have different definitions to each person. But if you just kind of want to get it all over, like I want to work out, you can do it with just body weight. You can do it with one dumbbell. You can do it. You don't need any particular equipment. And the more equipment you have, the more variety you can get. That's it. But when you start specifying, then you will pick your tools.
And that's the most important part because that would be my second, my like a segue to actually, how would you train? Like someone wants to come to and say, look, I want to do a strongman competition. How
Yeah.
should I train?
So it depends on what the events are going to be in that competition. Once we know what the events are, then we start training you for those events specifically.
Would be
Right? You can't do all the strongman work because there's so many different things. And if you don't have, for instance, a truck pull in the event, then why would you be pulling trucks? You would be, lifting stones instead or something, whatever it is. So you find out what your events are, and then you train for those events.
Would you say there's a solely based regarding that in the background? Like, would you take like a year, for example, or 6 months to get that person who was just a, average training Joe at the gym and just decided from like weightlifting to go with something more specific? Because, the loads, the volume, the intensity of those lifts, does he have to actually create that like pattern of a strongman, or he can like in 6 months can go have a competition?
I mean, I trained for my first strongman competition in 2 months.
Wow.
but I had a basis of powerlifting before that, so I was kind of halfway there, sort of. It's just a lot of the events I had no experience in. But like if you're just like some guy who really never really trained before, I would give it at least a year to get you, because you need to get a basis of strength first before you start lifting, all these weird implements that put your body at weird angles. It's just easier to get injured when you're putting your body at strange angles with strange objects. So you need to get a strong basis of support and then build from there. So I would start them almost certainly with the power lifts to get just real strong and all that, because all that stuff plays into strongman. And then we can start loading it up at weird angles like strongman does and go from there.
Yeah, because actually that's what I always said, that powerlifting always complements all, like as I said with Olympic lifting, some of the lifts of the Olympic lifting can complement any strong and explosiveness, and strength and explosiveness sport. What about your rest and your recovery? Because you are a person that is really dynamic. You don't want to sit down at all. And I know that now I know we're getting to that point, but what's your recovery? What do you do? How do you rest? What's your regime?
I train my major lifts 4 times a week. I have right now, because I'm training for competition, I have one arm lifting day, which is just I'm lifting big like thick objects. That day tends not to be as intense as my other days. And on my lifting days, I train each lift, like each lift has a heavy day, and then each lift has a low, lighter, high volume day. So for instance, on my overhead press day that I'm training that heavy, I might do a light, high volume bench, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So that I hit bench twice in a week, once light and once heavy. And then I always have ideally 2 days off, but sometimes it's just one. Like right now I'm training for a Moss wrestling competition. I'm doing the Moss wrestling and the arm lifting in the same weekend.
Jesus,
so I'm
machine.
a lot of crazy now. But I'm training 6 days a week because of that. But normally I would just do 5.
Okay. I know it's a difficult question, but who are the people that inspire you in our industry?
Oh God, so many. I love Lee Boyce because he talks about stuff nobody else is talking about.
Yeah.
I'm actually working on a project with him right now because of that, because he's the only other person who thinks about some of the weird crap that I think about, which is pretty cool. My brother is always going to be kind of my number one influence because first of all, he's who got me started in this stuff. He kind of sparked the flame, and he's just so dedicated and so intelligent, and so I mean, he's just a machine. He puts out research like it's nothing. So he's probably my biggest kind of. I'm very impressed by my brother. So that's going to be him. But I love Lee as well, and that's why I wanted to work with Lee on the project. So yeah, and I mean, there's so many people. I can't even begin to count everybody. But yeah.
I know that in the future we're going to be hopefully, with all the traveling, constraints and stuff, everything's going to get back to normal. I know we're going to be doing, me, you, and Lee, really nice workshops in the UK and Greece as well. So
that'll be fun. Yeah, yay!
Hopefully summer 21 or September 21, we'll see how things are gonna evolve. What's new for you? What's coming up?
Well, I'm working on this project with Lee. I've got these 2 competitions coming up next week. And trying to think, I know I've got something else that I'm working. Oh yeah, I've got an article I've got to write, and oh, you know what I did? This is because I am stupid. I just sent in an application for a second master's degree.
Woo!
So I don't know if I'll get in or not, but if I do, I'm going to be getting a second master's degree in sport nutrition.
Wow, good for you.
I cried my way through the first master's degree, so I'm not excited. But
I feel you 100%. I feel you on that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what's in my future right now.
All the best on that. Good luck.
Thank you.
Melody, thank you so much for your time. It's been amazing. We've been chatting about things and how you see the world, how you see our world, and thank you for making it better with actually this book and the other books in the past as well, and your workshops. And I'm seriously looking forward to what we're going to be doing in the future.
Absolutely, me too. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
My pleasure. See you soon.